If you're using a TV, a set-top box, a router, or something like that through an inverter, you're probably using more power than you realise. Today I'm going to show you our 12 volt setup that we use on our narrowboat that lets us enjoy TV, movies, music and even gaming. And don't worry if you don't even own a narrowboat. Exactly the same principles apply whether you've got a campervan, a motorhome or even a caravan. When we fitted our boat out, we knew that we didn't want to have a huge bank of batteries. Also, we didn't want to have the roof covered in solar panels. Living off grid for us, it's all about efficiency. So it's not so much about how much power we've got, but rather it's how we use the power that we do have. There's nothing wrong with using an inverter. In fact, sometimes it is the best solution. But if you're using electronics that have got a DC input anyway, there's often a simpler and more efficient way of doing it. Let's go and have a look. Here's our multimedia setup. It doesn't look anything out of the ordinary, but there's quite a lot going on here that's hidden out of view. We've been painting recently, so all this has been stripped down. So shortly, I'm going to show you what's hiding behind this panel. But first off, let's talk about 12 volt power. Most equipment on a narrowboat, the fridge, the lights, pumps, fans, things like that, they are designed to be used with 12 volt power. 12 volt, your batteries could be really low in winter, 11.8 volts perhaps, or you could be running the engine's running and 14 volts, and all of those kind of things that I just said, they will quite happily run regardless of what's happening with the battery power. They are designed to accept quite a wide variation of voltage. Consumer electronics are different. Things like televisions, routers, set-top boxes, things like that, they should be classed as sensitive electronics. And if you hardwire them into the boat's battery supply, the device is being exposed to the fluctuating voltage of the boat's batteries as they're being charged or being discharged. And it is not good for them. The best case scenario, you're going to get problems. You'll get brownouts. That is, the devices, they'll freeze up, they don't respond, random reboots and things like that. The worst case scenario, depending upon the device type, it can actually even damage them. These kind of devices, they expect a tightly regulated voltage. Most consumer electronics are DC input anyway, and they are usually supplied with like a wall brick or a floor brick, and all these devices do, they transform the alternating current and they supply the device with a regulated DC current it needs to use. To power these kind of devices directly off the boat's battery supply, I'm going to show you how I've used voltage regulators. These are low cost, readily available and extremely efficient, and they will power the devices with the correct voltage, a stable voltage that doesn't go up or down. And of course, because they're coming directly from the boat's batteries, you don't even need the inverter to be switched on. Behind this panel, there are 4 tiny devices that make the whole system work, and most people don't even notice that they're there. I've been doing a bit of painting, so all of this has been stripped down to just give me access for the painting. So the front panel's been removed, so it's a good idea to show you while it's off what's going on behind there. It's quite a lot, as you can see. It looks complicated, but if we just go through it in stages, it really isn't. The router's plugged in just so that we can have internet. This is the voltage regulator for the television. The boat battery voltage comes into the device. It reduces it to a stable 12 volts and outputs it on this side, and it goes back to the television, and then it gets plugged into the TV. That's what powers the television. Let's just have a look, see what the boat batteries are doing. The boat batteries are at 13.3 volts. So let's just have a look at the output of this voltage regulator. And it's reduced it by a volt. It's 12.3 volts. That is absolutely fine for the television. It's a little bit over, as you can see, but they are like that. They're all engineered like that. What it is for, it's if you've got your device that's powering a long way away from the regulator, it allows for a little bit of voltage drop and the device still gets its 12 volts. The 12.3, it's still within the 5% tolerance for the acceptable for sensitive electronics, so that is absolutely fine. So that's just a TV, that is all that is. This is for the Wi-Fi router. This is another voltage stabilizer. It's much smaller than these, as you can see. It's probably half the size, but this one only outputs 3 amps at its maximum. These two big ones, they can both output 6 amps each. You need a little bit more for a television and a computer, but for this Wi-Fi router, it only uses an amp, barely that. So the boat battery again comes into the device, it does its stuff, and it comes back out, providing the router with a stable 12 volts, in this case 12.35. Again, slightly over, just to allow for a bit of voltage drop if your device was a long way away. This one powers the computer and the Firestick, and I've made this so it's selectable. Again, the boat battery voltage comes into the device, it does its stuff, and it sends out, in this, I think this is the same, it'll be 12.3. Yeah, 12.34, just to allow for that voltage drop. Stable voltage though, it's stable. It's never going to go up, it's never going to go down, regardless of what's happening with the boat and the batteries, whether the solar's on, whether the alternator's running. It's always just going to give me that 12.3. And that's what the electronics need, a stable voltage. I've wired this one slightly different. On the live of the output side, we've made that switch, these white wires here, they go down to a switch, and it's a 3-position switch. It's in the middle, it is off 0. Number 1, it sends the power to the computer, to the Mac Mini. And if you go back through number 1 and onto number 2 on the switches, and that provides the power for the little converter for the Firestick. So I can select either one or the other, but you can't have both on together. I've done this on purpose, just in case I ever had both of my HDMI inputs for the television, both powered on at the same time. It's just a waste of energy, and you don't need to do that. If we're watching a Firestick, we're not playing computer games, are we? And vice versa. So it does stop me doing that, and it's also a way of using one voltage stabilizer for 2 devices. So number 1 switch will power the computer, which will sit here, or number 2 switch would power this little, it's another buck converter, but this time 12 volts go into it, and the output is 5 volts micro USB at 2 amps. Firestick needs 2 amps. If it's downloading an update, applying an update, something like that, high intensity, it will use up to 2 amps. This is why you shouldn't plug them into the USB socket on your television, because it will eventually burn those USB sockets out. The USB on television, unless they're marked for 2 amps, they are 500 milliamps, and that isn't really enough to power one of these. If you're running all of this kind of equipment and it's hardwired into the boat, it is best to go through one of these voltage regulators. If you don't, you're probably going to experience random shutdowns, lockups. Things are going to freeze. You can have random reboots, and you constantly they don't like fluctuating voltage, and it's just going to make them freeze up. Hence why we've done this. Right, let's have a look at each device in turn and how they work. Now you've seen how they power them, we'll see what we actually do with them. We're really happy with the clean look of it. We didn't want cables, wires hanging everywhere, tripping us into it. So we've used this trunking. It works really well. It's a bit of a squeeze to get everything organised, but that's fine. The TV, it's mounted on a low profile adjustable bracket, and as with most narrowboats, the bottom half of the walls, they slope outwards towards the gunnels under here. So an angled bracket allows us to tip the TV forward very slightly, just so that it is perfectly vertical. And it's the same with this panel here that holds the computer and the router and hides all the regulators. We cut angled standoffs so that once it's mounted on the wall, it matches the TV and it's perfectly vertical. The television itself is a 32-inch Cello branded. It is marketed as a 12-volt TV to begin with. However, that is not the full picture. It still relies on a floor brick because this is the regulator to output that regulated 12-volt supply. And the plug that comes with it, it's one of these, yeah, the cigarette type of, you know, the kind of thing. Anyone that's had a boat, a caravan or a car, you'll know they are not the most reliable. You just knock them and the power just goes off. Not great when you're halfway through streaming a movie, is it? So to hardwire the TV into the boat's battery supply, we've used that regulator as I've showed you, and we can dispense with these all together. 32 inches is about as big as I'd want to go, if I'm honest. We sit opposite the TV, and narrowboats are narrow. So my eyes are, they're about 6 feet away. So 32 inch, it does give you the feel that it is, in fact, a much bigger screen. As you can see, it runs on the LG software, so it probably looks quite familiar to many people who've got LG TVs. And it's got all of the streaming apps. It's got built-in Freeview and built-in FreeSat. And we do have a roof-mounted aerial and a small satellite dish as well. Even though we don't watch television, we are streamers. However, we do like to listen to the radio, and it's got a built-in digital radio. So as we're moving around the network, we do keep the TV tuned in, and we can just put the radio on then, digital radio, whenever we want. The LED light surround on the TV and the platform, it's one of the LED light strips, and it's stuck on and it comes through the channel and then it continues around there. It's actually USB powered, and it is powered by the USB socket on the television. Now, remembering what I was saying earlier, the television USB sockets generally they are rated for 500 milliamps or half an amp. They're not designed for powering Firesticks, charging phones and things like that. So make sure that you check your specifications of your TV. You don't want to try and draw too much power out of these sockets. It'll probably work, but you're overheating all the components inside, and it's just going to lead to a premature failure. But these have been tested, as you can see here, and they take just short of the 500 milliamp. So we are good to go. A nice touch with them, it does actually come with an app on my phone, and you can change the colour to suit the moods. And there's a few different modes. We can have a music mode, or the flash to the voices on the television also. But we just like the lights. Now, you saw a Firestick. It was hidden behind this panel. Although the TV has got all of the streaming apps built in, we still use a Firestick because the Firestick allows us to install our VPN. And if you've got a VPN on a Firestick, it opens up content only available in other countries. So that's why we use that. It just gives us even more options. Believe it or not, this computer cost me about 50 quid. It's a 12-year-old Mac Mini. Most people would consider them e-waste. We love old school console gaming, and the Mac Mini has an operating system called Batocera installed. It allows us to play all of our old favourites from consoles like the Mega Drive, PlayStation, SNES, Nintendo 64 and many more. There's tens of thousands of games available for Batocera, and it's compatible with almost any controllers. We use the Xbox wireless controllers, and we've also upgraded these to USB-C rechargeable battery packs. They have the Xbox dongle on the computer, and they talk to it like that, and they work perfectly. The system settings allows you to map out all the buttons that you want, and we also have USB-C rechargeable keyboard and mouse as well for using it as a computer. The Batocera operating system, it also has Kodi Media Center built in, and it's a simple matter to just plug in some media, which we've got a lifetime's worth of movies, old television, all of our music on these little hard drives, and it's just a simple matter just to plug one in. We've got these little caddies for them, they're really cheap, and USB-C, and the power directly off the computer. And yeah, if ever if we didn't have internet, or we just fancied an old movie, we've still got a media available to us. The Mac Mini has been slightly modified to allow it to run off the 12-volt DC input. This component sits inside of the unit, and this is basically the equivalent of the floor brick or the wall brick. It's just internal, it sits inside there. It's been removed. Normally what would happen, this is the AC input, and you get the wall plug at the lead, and that fits in there. It transforms the AC into DC and outputs a stable regulated supply onto these connector here, which is a ribbon cable. What we've done, once that has been removed, you can get a 5.5mm socket, which comes with the little fly leads, and that is fitted inside, and these wires will then connect to that ribbon cable. So the 12 volts is being input directly to the actual circuit board inside the Mac. The power is here, and again, this is that's the socket, and this is the plug. They come as a pair from the usual places. So we use one of those from that power regulator that sits behind here, so we get a nice stable 12 volts coming through here, and it plugs straight into there. Let's get a close up. So prior to modification, this is the internal regulator and transformer. This is the socket where the wall lead would fit into it, and you can see there's a little bit of a gap there, but once you've removed it, it allows you to fit a new socket, as I've done there. It's just, it comes with some plastic nuts, and it's just a nut on the back of there, and it holds it steady. And then with the matching plug, which is here, this comes from my regulator at the back where I showed you earlier, and that is now its power supply. So we have gone directly to the circuit board inside the Mac Mini. It works well. Doing something like that, you definitely need a regulator, and it's certainly not something that Apple would recommend. But maybe if there's enough interest, the Bhattacharya gaming system, Kodi Media Center, and a 12-volt conversion could be the subject of another video. Let me know what you think. And finally, we've got the router. This is the TP-Link. It's the MR600. It has a nano SIM card which pops in there. We're on Vodafone. It's unlimited, and we've been really happy with it. I can probably count on one hand the amount of times that we've not been able to stream television. It surprised me, I will be honest. You'll notice that there are a couple of network cables just plugged in to 2 of the 4 sockets. This is for the Mac Mini and the television. It's just to stop too many Wi-Fi devices connecting to it, and it can slow things down and freeze up. You know what they're like, Wi-Fi, don't you? But we have our phones, the Firestick, and the laptop. They just connect to the Wi-Fi as normal. The antenna, these 2 cables here, again, they come down the trunking and they go that way, and they go all the way out to the bedroom, out to the front of the boat, up onto the roof where the antenna is on a magnetic pole. It does help to turn if you're not getting a very good signal. You don't want your antenna facing buildings or trees, so you just turn it so it's facing the sky. This wooden boxing exists on the boat anyway. It houses all of our water pipes, from the water pipe tank at the front down to the sink here, and the calorifier, and then the hot water pipes back to the bathroom. It also got a lot of cable in as well for horns, lights and pumps and things like that. So it's in existence anyway, so we might as well make use of it. So we've run our media cable down from right up the front where the fuse panel is, down to here where it splits into 3. And this is where it feeds each circuit. We've got a switch here which is for the television. This one is for the router, and this one, like I said earlier, it's a 3-position switch with number 1. That powers the computer, which feeds to the television on HDMI 1. 0 is power off, and position number 2, that fires up the Amazon Firestick, which feeds HDMI number 2. Splitting the media circuit into 3 as we have done, and then being controlled by these little switches down here, means that if ever there's an electrical problem with any of the equipment, we quickly be able to find out which one it is, because we can isolate stuff one at a time. It also helps us a little bit with power as well, because we don't leave the TV on standby all night, nor do we with the computer or the Fire Stick, so they're knocked off. However, the router is left on because we still have Wi-Fi when we sat playing on the phones in bed. So it all works really well for us. I really hope that you've enjoyed spending some time with me and looking at this system. I hope that you've learned something too. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Thank you for all your support on the channel as ever, and until next time, I'll say goodbye.